feel like not doing the introduction. So I'm looking at the audience, and I know y'all know why you came and who you came from, right?
Yes.
This is not a novice group I'm looking at right now, right? But just want to say this is May 20th. Yesterday was Malcolm X's birthday. And to me, Malcolm X kind of ushers in a whole generation of, at that time, were younger activists, intellectuals, artists, right? And one of them, well, we're here this evening. I hope it's not out of place, but I'm old enough to remember this young poet, Don L. Lee.
Yes, sir.
Who was a part of a generation of poets like Amiri Baraka, like Askia Ture, who used to be with us here in Atlanta, like Sonia Sanchez, Mari Evans. Those folks like took what we were feeling and they captured the language and they gave it back to us. And for many of us, it was food during a period of intense struggle for our people here in this country. What I love about this brother is he took those words and he built institutions, right?
Yes, sir.
Institute of Positive Education, Third World Press.
Yes, sir.
It's one thing to say certain things, to talk, but the other things are to put some legs to it. So we're all honored, and we see one of our continuing institutions is the Third World Press. Haki has been able to speak in timely times, just talking bullets. I haven't been able to taking bullets, and we said last night, we know who's taking bullets. But it's speaking to us at a particular time. A few years ago, he probably doesn't remember when he spoke at NCBS, and they addressed this book, Life of Reinvention, about Malcolm X. Very timely. So through the vehicle of this press, he has been able to make sure we have a voice on certain issues. Let me be quiet right now. Without further ado, we'll bring one of our cultural giants, Baba Haki Madhubuti.
Yeah.
I'm really happy to be here. I want to bring you greetings from Chicago, my family, my wife, Sapisha Madhubuti. She works under her birth name, Dr. Carol D. Lee. She's still at Northwestern. I retired. I was forced into retirement by a Negro president, and which is all right, you know, it's okay. But the fights, that's what keeps us going. My wife, who's brilliant, and I say that in all seriousness. I'm a poet and she's a scholar. And we get into an argument, if it's under 5 minutes, I win. Beyond 5 minutes, hang it up. I was telling my brother and sister that my wife is being inducted into the American Academy of Arts and Sciences in October. That's the last one. So, obviously, greetings from my children, and from the institutions that we have in Chicago, which is Third World Press. Third World Press will be 50 years old next September.
All right.
September 17th. And one of the books will be 100 years old September, and June the 17th. I bring greetings from our schools. We have 4 schools. New Concept School, which is a preschool. Betty Shabaza National Charter School, which is K-8. The Barbara Sizemore Academy, K-8. And Due South Leadership Academy, which is high school. We have a Neanderthal mayor. He's closed 50 schools, so he's closing our high school. Tried to close all of our K-8s, but we fought him on that. We're keeping that. Bringing greetings from the streets. And that's why I wrote Taking Bullets. That when they killed Tamir Rice, they killed all of us. They hurt all of us. You don't drive up on a 12-year-old boy with a toy gun in less than 30 seconds, the boy's dead. We all know for a fact that if the boy was white, he would be dead.
Yes, sir.
He would be dead. Simple as that. And there's no more explanation. And what is very clear, the guy that shot him was not indicted. He done wrong. But what I tried to do in Taking Bullets, which is the full title, is Terrorism and Black Life in 21st Century America. But also looking at confronting white nationalism, supremacy, privilege, hypocrisy, and oligarchy. And what people, and our people do not know, that ever since our forced migration to this land, we've been at war. But the war has not been acknowledged because it's been a low intensity war on our side. You see, it's been against us. And because our families, once we landed in this bad boy, was torn asunder, broken up, we had established new communications among each other, and fought our way through to the so-called Civil War. We fought our way out of enslavement. There's nobody today. Lincoln didn't free us. Okay. Nobody tell you that bag of lies. But what happened, most certainly after we fought our way out of enslavement, we ran up against a new enslavement, which was, of course, the black codes, moving into the 18th, 19th, 20th century. And it's always been warfare, but we have not fought it the best way. And as a result of that, we're the ones who suffer the most. I say we, I'm talking about collective we. You know, Du Bois talked about a talented 10th, and he backed up on it because it was not right. Okay? He knew he made a mistake, and he backed up on it. But actually, there's a talented 20%. And that talented 20% will be these damn ministers out here. You know, there are 86,000 black churches in this country. 86,000. And in fact, you know, Creflo Dollar was trying to get a new jet last year. And he put his call out on this email and saying, you need to get a new jet. Well, I called the Negro. I called him up. You know? And I said, look, I'll give you $10. If you get on your jet, just leave and don't come back. And of course, he hung up on me. But what we don't realize is that if we knew that we were at war, we wouldn't be asking for a new jet. If we knew that we were at war, Jay-Z and Beyonce wouldn't be trying to buy a $46 million home. I just found that out today. I mean, that's almost like evil. When you begin to look at what's happening within the context of our people in this country. I can't even imagine a $46 million home. Okay. But you may still be able to get this, but if you can, pick it up. It's the 2016 issue of Forbes, and it's the billionaire issue. These are bad people that run it. Mainly men, they run it. Okay. When you look at Bill Gates, he's worth about $79 billion. Warren Buffett, about $74.3 billion. You look at the Walton children, about $26 billion each. You can go on down the line. Look at the Koch brothers. You know, they're worth about, all three of them, worth about $75 billion. Sheldon Ellison, about $26 billion. There are no black people in this country worth that kind of money. Oprah Winfrey is worth $3.5 billion. Michael Jordan, because the white boy bought the Los Angeles Clippers and paid $2 billion for it, so therefore his team rose up in terms of its value to about $1.5 billion. So he's about $1.5 billion. But the black people who have money, most of their money is not liquid.
That's right.
So they can't write you a check for $1 million. Right? It's not liquid, it's tied up in all other kind of stuff. But Bill Gates can write you a check for $500 million. Easily. They run it, all right? We run after it and talk about how bad we are. You know, the brother standing on the corner talking about, this is my turf, they're paying rent, all right? They don't own nothing. And that is the core of our problem. We lack ownership. And part of lacking ownership, we don't own ourselves. If you don't own yourself, forget about trying to own anything else. And I remember And Malcolm's birthday was yesterday. He was 91 years old. And you notice in all my books, I open up giving Malcolm credit because he gave me my voice. And I wouldn't be here without Malcolm, without Margaret and Charlie Burroughs, who founded DuSable Museum, without Dudley Randall, who founded the Broadside Press and was one of the fine poets, without Portfolio, who's editor of New York Digest Black World magazine.
Sure.
And without, most certainly, Barbara Ann Sizemore, one of the major educators in the world. Okay. When I was teaching at Howard, she became the first black superintendent of the Howard University, the Washington, D.C. school system. She didn't last long. All right? How could she?
Serious.
If she's coming in with something very serious, she couldn't last long. And so these are the people who essentially gave me life. And of course, Gwendolyn Brooks, who was my cultural mother for over 33 years. And so all of us in this room, we have our horror stories. If you're black and you live this long, you got a whole lot of horror stories. But you have not allowed the horror stories to diminish your thirst for life.
Teach.
And therefore we, all of us, are what I would call optimistic realists. Especially if you got children. All right? All 42 million black people in this country, we're not going anywhere. It's rough to get to one side of Atlanta to the other side of Atlanta. From the west side of Chicago to the south side of Chicago. From Harlem to Brooklyn, okay? And so we are not trapped, but we built the country. It's payback time. Somebody got to pay us something, all right? But we cannot move and expect to be paid tomorrow because it's not going to happen. So we take what we have and we got to build. And this is why understanding who actually runs this bad boy is very critical. And what is also very critical is the current run for the President of the United States. Now, I write about Barack Obama in the book. I don't really jump on him, which I know I can, but the point is that he never had a chance. He never had a chance. And I write about this in the book. On the first day of the inauguration, these bad boys were meeting downtown Washington, D.C., planning his demise. Basically saying, we're not going to let him do anything. And for the most part, it has happened. And I open up the book with a quote from a Jewish writer who was very influential in the 60s and the 70s, part of the 80s. Her name is Susan Sontag. Some of you may have read some of her work by accident. But I read all of this stuff. She writes in Styles of Radical Will, she writes, and I quote, "The white race is the cancer of human history. It is a white race, and it alone is ideologies and inventions, which eradicates autonomous civilizations wherever it spreads, which has upset the ecological balance of the planet, which now threatens the very existence of life itself." And so, opening up with taking bullets, I want to set the pace. We're dealing with white nationalism, white supremacy, and white skin privilege, which falls over into plutocracy and oligarchy. So we talk about oligarchs, plutocracies, right here in terms of Forbes. Money. And I get a chapter in here when I'm dealing with money, but it's very important for us to realize that we have to change the conversation. We have to dominate the conversation. We cannot go on these programs, we cannot deal with these people and let them, act. We need to ask them the questions and get some answers from them. And we have to understand that Europe is attached to the United States. It has shared history, culture, values, economics, wars, and philosophies of white supremacy and white nationalism. Therefore, one must understand and acknowledge that race, which is fundamentally is a social construct in the United States, is not the exception to its culture. It drives the culture. Race also dictates that we, as black people, as black poets, as writers, scholars, workers, at all levels, progressives, and many of those activists who have given their lives to working and studying the issues of race, much like W.B. Du Bois of the last century, must retake control of the territory of language, ideas, and creative actions. This is so important. And It can be done. But it has to be done like building institutions like this and maintaining them. You see, and it's not easy. You know what I'm saying? To tell you, it is not easy at all. You see. But it is important that we understand from the genocidal elimination and appropriations of indigenous peoples' lands in this country to the enslavement of tens of millions of African peoples and their parallel subhuman bondage in the 20th century with, I call it June and Jane Crow, Jim and Jane Crow, to the internments of, which is a black word, and imprisonment of tens of thousands of people of Japanese heritage. During Europeans and the United States war, see, war on the world, number 2, not World War II, not World War I, it's war on the world, number 1 and number 2. Commonly known as World War II. So the rhetoric and the nomenclature of race often diminishes the horrific effects of white world supremacy and international white nationalism, which by any measurement is not only alive and well in the 21st century, but is most certainly in the United States a growth industry. All right? And the best example of that is Mr. Trump. That's the best example. It's not about making America great again, it's about making America white again. And you must, and I know to a large extent I'm talking to the choir, but if you got 42 million black people, you got 60 million Latin Americans, Hispanics, and people, Spanish-speaking people, you got a whole lot of people there who are not going back to South America. And most certainly we're not going back to Africa because most of them have been to Africa. All we know is this place. Okay? Many of you, I'm sure, have been to Africa. But all we know is this place here. So nobody's going to uproot us. Nowhere. Okay? And so it becomes very clear that we change the conversation. So seldom in this country do, at any level, entertain questions of global colonialism, genocide, white settler land theft, or whole people enslavement because of race, color, economics, or location. So the essential core and fundamental determination, or definition of North and South America is in its history of white domination of native peoples, whether in the Americas, Africa, or Asia. So we cannot understand our seriously approach with any ounce of true United States history without confronting how the nation was formed, maintained, and developed, and how it grew and prospered in its systematic conquering, colonization, elimination, and enslavement of native peoples. You know, I'm just going to say this a minute. But you come here, you wipe out the indigenous people, because they're not going to work the land for you. So you go to Africa, you rape Africa, you sprinkle Africans all around the Western world, all right? Tear asunder the families, drop them here, work them from sun up to sundown, raggedy clothes, bad food, all right, for hundreds of years, all right? Any people that does it, you can build a nation. You see what I'm saying? You can't get all the people, these people building a nation because you had free labor, all right? And as a result of the free labor, and we fight our way out of enslavement, and then it's still almost halfway free labor because whatever jobs we had, they didn't pay us nothing. All right? And so it's been a struggle all the time. So we're a strong people. But at some point, once we buy into the habits, and once we buy into the lifestyle of the people who enslaved us, we become weaker people. We become very weak, you see. And so it becomes important for us to recognize that we have some internal cleansing that we must do. And this internal cleansing is very important. It's critical. And part of that cleansing has to be the cleansing of the mind. Look, I tell my children all the time, you gotta be guerrilla warriors. We gotta work among these people every day, but you can't let them know what's on your mind. You can't let them go into your heart. You can't be telling them your secrets. You see what I'm saying? As a guerrilla warrior, we go among the enemy, we learn what we can from them, bring it back, and begin to use it in terms of our own liberation.
That's right.
And part of the liberation is ownership. But you, like I said earlier, you cannot move toward ownership unless you own yourself first. Any people who are not in control of their own cultural imperatives and who are not about the healthy replication of themselves are still in prison. It is so important. And so on, it's something, whoever names you is your master. It becomes very important for us to begin to understand that there are some bold statements and some true statements that we must acknowledge. In the West, most certainly in the United States, white people never, and I say never, have to think about being white. Being white is accepted, normal, and privileged existence. However, black people, African Americans, everywhere in the world, especially in the United States, must think about and deal with being black every day of the year. And this is amplified in the darker one's complexion. Dark-skinned black men and women have a storm to negotiate each day they step outside their family's comfort zone. All the white systems of organization, control, definition have been put in place to keep black men and women out, to reduce black people's struggle and the definition of their race to people of color. That's dangerous. And see, to reduce us to people of color is to display an ignorance reserved for newborn babies. We must never diminish the critical power that black carries in a white supremacist culture. If all 42 million plus black people in the United States disappeared tomorrow, there's not one job, position, appointment, post, function, manager, executive, professorship, CEO, CFO, general, other military, exception now held by black people, including the President of the United States, that cannot be filled within a week by white people. In a nation of over 314 million people, the black population of 42 million in this nation, in a nation with a surplus of PhDs, MDs, MBAs, lawyers, MFAs, medical doctors, technicians, degree positions, and others, too many white people, young people, are jobless. They lose their jobs. They back home. They back home with serious debt. The student debt in this country is $1.4 trillion and growing, which is obscene. Well, I'm saying white people who run it don't care about their own people, don't care about their own children, you see. And so there are millions of white people standing in line and submitting similar resumes from the basements of their parents' homes, where they have been forced to move back to after undergraduate school or technical training because of the quote-unquote recession of 2008, 2009 that is still with us. They are unable to find employment. I write about this in the book, but one of the key elements of that 08, 09 recession, which was a depression to us, was that the people that called us didn't go to jail. They got bonuses. All right? You never heard about Goldman Sachs going to jail, Citicorp going to jail, Bank of America going to jail. So the core fact and the bottom line for us, black people are no longer essential to America's economic labor force. If I'm wrong, you can correct me. But I'm looking at this thing, and I've been to every state. I've been to every state except 4 states in the United States. Every state except Alaska, South Dakota, North Dakota, and Hawaii. Okay? And every place I go. And my wife had a special appointment out at Stanford. And we shipped her car out there. She said she wanted to drive back. I said, I'll drive back, but we got to make some stops. And one of the stops I wanted to make was Salt Lake City. I want to see these Mormons. These some bad boys. They fought their way across this nation. They committed genocide across the nation, and they went into Utah and took it. They don't ask permission. No, you don't ask for permission about what's going to happen in Utah. You ask the Mormons. All right. Harry's a Mormon. You got a lot of Mormons who are in public policy positions that you don't know anything about.
Right.
But they're looking about for themselves. Okay. And so when we got there, we drove in, I guess that early morning, maybe around 4 or 5 o'clock, I'm not sure. Anyway, she went on to sleep. I got out and walked the streets. Clean as all get out. And I walked down there to about where their headquarters is. It is unbelievable. It's just like the Vatican. Okay? Just like the Vatican. See? And what we got are prosperity ministers. Okay? But this is the core fact of our existence in this country. And unless we recognize it and plan accordingly, the future will remain a question mark for us. We must also consider a number of other bold but true statements that will provoke questions and conversation on race and existence in America. Number one, too many black boys and men know more about football and basketball than their own history, culture, and defining ideas and values. Cultural knowledge is not even an afterthought. The major problem in the black community is one of economic, cultural, political, and military ignorance. I mean, serious ignorance, especially military ignorance. Okay? And number two, in hard numbers, there are more poor white people in the United States than poor black people. White nationalist ideology, white skin privilege give white people opportunities that most blacks do not have. There's little, if any, discussion nationally on the acute poverty of Appalachia and Delta, Mississippi poor whites. This discussion would introduce the conversation of class inequality among whites, and the rich avoid this reality like the plague. Anytime you introduce class, it's a white talking about, you're talking about class warfare now. Yeah. Well, yes, absolutely. You know, and we losing. Number three, if the white rich and wealthy really cared about America's future, why is the loan student debt $1.4 trillion and growing? Number four, black people and Latinos, Hispanics are not in mass numbers leaving the United States. We're here to stay. White people need to seriously adjust their attitude, actions, and lifestyle and begin to re-education that lends toward a realistic understanding of people outside of their white world. I'm not going through the whole thing, it's just a couple of points. Number seven, black people are encouraged to be individuals. From the outside, we are seen as a group, therefore individually we are invisible. Number seven, black boys and men, unlike some other ethnic groups, we do not have an effective national lobbying firms, politicians, institutions, organizations working on behalf of around the clock. There's nobody working on our behalf. There's no lobbyists in Washington, D.C. working for black men and black boys, or even for black women and black girls. And talk about drugs. You know, drugs are not grown in the black community. Weapons are not made in the black community. All that's imported.